just ask in the room, is there anybody here who's 14? Any 14-year-olds, raise your hand? Do you know that it was 14 years ago next week that Colonel Ilan Ramon, Israel's first astronaut, was killed along with 6 of his crewmates aboard a space shuttle named Columbia. And your parents may remember, Judith Resnick was one of the 7 crewmates aboard the Challenger who died 31 years ago today. I tell you these things for 2 reasons. Although I always wanted to be an astronaut as a child, I'm not an astronaut. The truth is, though, I have gone where a few men have gone before. I also tell you this because, although no one else will likely note the Jewish connection to these historic tragedies, I know from firsthand experience that there is always a Jewish connection to everything in life and in death, including my own tragedies and accomplishments. My name is Dawn Ennis, and if that doesn't ring a bell, as the folks who introduced me told you, I'm a transgender woman. I live in West Hartford, but I was born and raised in New York. When I was born, a doctor told my parents, "It's a boy." It turns out that was not exactly true. Oh, I had a circumcision, and I was raised male. Around the age of 5, though, I felt something was different. I remember staring into the mirror in our dining room above the cupboard and looking into my eyes and trying to figure out what is so different about me compared to all the other boys. And I asked my mother, "What is this?" I had told her I want to be a mommy just like her. I want to have 5 kids. Oh my God. Well, she broke the news to me, "You can't have kids." I asked her why. Why am I different? She told me I was special. Doesn't every mom tell their little boys and girls that they're special? Well, that's not what the other boys told me I was. They told me I was a fag. I was a fairy. And worse, bullies mercilessly mocked me because I wasn't like them, because I had friends as girls, because I didn't act like all the other boys. So as I grew up, I learned to hide that. I grew accustomed to this role that I was assigned of being a boy. We didn't have a word for transgender back then. Even gay was sort of a negative word when I grew up in the 70s. But looking back, I can tell you without a shred of a doubt, I knew I was something other than a boy. And because of the constant bullying, I really wasn't prepared to identify myself as a girl. Not right away, at least. But by the time I reached the age of 12, I had already been working 8 years of my life. Think about that. I had been working from age 4 to age 12. I contributed 1/3 of our family income. My sister and I were both child models and actors. My dad was a police officer. Cops didn't make a lot of money back then. And it seemed just as I was on the verge of puberty, that very lucrative career was going to hit a big roadblock. My mother decided I would just not have puberty. How she did that is something that haunted me for years, although at the time I didn't mind it. So I told you I was a child model. What I didn't tell you is that starting at age 12, I started modeling as a girl. I had the only Dorothy Hamill haircut of any boy on Long Island. My father used to mock me all the time for having long nails. And it was my mother's idea. It was a secret that we kept from everybody. And I basically just lived with it because to me it was acting. To me it was acting. And it was fun because my mom and I bonded. We got really close. Closer than she was even with my own actually assigned female at birth sister. It was a weird time because I think most boys would admit, any boy here, that if your mom said you're now going to dress up as a girl and have long hair and do your nails, you'd probably say, "No way, Mom." To me, it seemed like the right thing. This is part of the story that I will save for the question and answers, but it all stopped when I was 16. My father found out, and he stopped me from continuing this act, and I finished out my career as a model at age 17. Went back to being just the boy. Life went on. Unlike all the folks here, I attended a private Catholic high school. I was fortunate to win a full tuition journalism scholarship. And that is where I met the love of my life, another scholarship winner. Up until meeting Wendy, every girl I dated told me, I like you, you're cute, but I don't know, there's something about you that just, I feel like I'm talking to my girlfriend. They were right. And I didn't understand that. I think a lot of guys and girls understand when that friendship thing comes up and it's like, oh, yeah, we're gonna be just friends. But for me, it was something more than that. It wasn't just they wanted to be my friend, they just didn't feel attracted. I couldn't figure out what that was. Wendy was different. Wendy loved the fact that I was a sensitive person, that I was in touch with my feelings. And I loved her, and I loved being loved. Romance to me, fell in love. We talked about something that was very important to having everyone here. How are we gonna raise the kids? I said, well, when you're Catholic, about a month later you take the kids to church and you dunk them in the water and the priest says, oh, you're a Catholic and you're baptized. Well, she said, yeah, but when you're Jewish, if you're a Jewish mother, the kids are automatically Jewish. Done. Done deal. How do you argue with that? God says she's Jewish, they're Jewish. I told my parents, they said, are you still gonna raise the kids to believe in God? I said, yes. That's wonderful. And so I have 3 beautiful Jewish children. They're 18, 14, and the kid with the pink hair is 10. In my second year of college, I got an internship at CNN. So I'm a sophomore. I'm 19 going on 20. A month into my internship at CNN, they hired me to work while I'm still in college. I worked my way up from running coffee to running a newsroom at TV stations from here to Florida, from the East Coast to Los Angeles, as well as CBS, NBC, and ABC. And speaking of ABC, in May of 2013, I became the first journalist in a network TV newsroom to come out as trans. This is before Caitlyn Jenner and a lot of other people. It made headlines. Thank you. They weren't all good headlines. Talk show hosts and shock jocks made me the butt of their jokes. A reporter literally hid in the bushes outside my house to ambush my oldest son when he came home from school. Another reporter went up and down our block, knocking on doors, asking neighbors if they knew the tranny next door. They went to my mom's house, my mother-in-law's house, my sister's house. Despite this, life was good. I was accepted at work by my children, by my beloved. Although I identified as trans and she identified as a straight woman and asked me to move out. She did not want to be married to another woman. And authenticity is a two-way street. It's great that she recognized me as a woman, but it's also bad that it cost me the love of my life. So I did move out, we separated. Something really weird happened to me. Caitlyn Jenner told people that when she was living with Bruce Jenner, she would sometimes live as the woman she felt she was, and then other times she wouldn't. She'd sometimes take hormones and she'd stop. She did all that because she didn't really know if she wanted to do what she wanted to do. And most transgender people, there are 1.4 million of us, go through some period where you're not really 100% sure, and maybe sometimes you take a step back. I think it's bad that we look at flip-flopping as a negative. I think most of us take our time with decisions and we don't always stick with them. Sometimes you make a decision and you say, oh, that was a bad decision. In my case, it wasn't really my choice. I had a seizure about 2 months after I came out, a month after I came out to my kids. And I ended up losing 14 years of my life. I thought it was 1999. I was rushed to the hospital. I was treated for amnesia. I got back almost all my memories, but except for the one that was really most important. How did I get to be this? How am I suddenly a woman? And I completely denounced it. I said, I am not. This is all some mistake. And I was operating under an illusion. The problem was, of course, that the papers got wind of that. And if they made fun of me before for being who I was, they made even more fun of me for not knowing who I was. ABC wasn't so happy about that. They put me on psychiatric leave. They made me take tests to prove I wasn't crazy. We're all a little crazy, but I proved to them that I could be this man I used to be and that I was fine. And then, oh, now I remember. And I was back in a closet further than I ever was in my entire life. What the heck am I gonna do? How am I gonna break this to my family, who are so happy to have the man and father in their life back again? How am I gonna tell the people at work who accepted me, then weren't sure what to do with me, and now accepted me again? All this playing out in the public spotlight. It sucked. But in the end, Shakespeare was right, to thine own self be true. So I came out a second time, May the following year, 2014. And in June of 2014, I was fired. But in the 2.5 years since I got fired, I found myself, not just as a woman, but as an advocacy journalist. I'm still a journalist, and I was the first, as they mentioned, first staff editor who was transgender at the oldest LGBT magazine in the country. It's called The Advocate. It's 50 years old this year. I'm the one who asked Caitlyn Jenner if she wanted to be Ted Cruz's trans ambassador. That made headlines too. But a year ago last week, my beloved passed away from cancer. And I made her a promise when we found out that I would do two things. First was, she said, don't move the kids to LA if I die. And I said, I would never do that. They already would be losing their mom. How could I do that to them? And the second was, I need you to be Dawn again for one day, for my daughter's bat mitzvah. I said yes, immediately to both. I'll tell you though, hours before the bat mitzvah, I was in the rabbi's office crying. I was crying because I felt like I was gonna be lying to God. I'm not Jewish, but I know God, and I know who I am. And I thought, how can I get up on that bima and be that person I'm not anymore? And he told me, the most important thing in any religion is to keep your promises. And you made a promise. Someone called it a shalom bayit. It's something you do for someone else. And so I did. For one day, bound my breasts. I didn't wear my hair that I wear. It's my hair, I paid for it. And everybody was like, what's with Dawn? Why is she looking like that? And I said, it's for Wendy. And that was all that had to be said. It was the happiest day of our last couple of months. But look, being what I am now is the most important job I've ever had of all those jobs I talked about. I gave up my life as an LA woman. I walked away from the red carpets and the Hollywood hunks because I'm a widow. There's something I never thought I'd ever say. I started out being this confused boy, grew up to be a man, a husband, a father, a single woman, well, separated, we never divorced. And then I'm a widow. It's so awful. And I will encourage everyone here to understand one thing. The people who lose those closest to you, there's nothing you can say that's right or wrong. Just offer your love and your support, because that's what my community did. Congregation Beth Israel came out in spades. They made meals. They took my kids places. They supported me and us like no one's ever supported us in our lives. Yes, the Catholic transgender widow was supported by a community of Jewish people who I'm forever indebted to. There's a short film I'm going to show you that is a little bit about those times since a year ago.
I lied to her. I actually was cheating on her with another woman. The other woman was me.
I left my wife so I could become me, a woman who is attracted to men. What can I say about that? I don't understand it.
The kids went to the hospital, and they didn't know they were going to say goodbye. She wanted them to think that she'd be getting better.
Okay, I said my name is Dawn, and you keep calling me sir. Can you do me a favor? I'm grieving my wife. Do you think you could not call me sir on top of that?
Okay, well, I'm sorry. I didn't know if you were female or male. Sir, I'm sorry. Ma'am, I'm sorry.
Put your homework away, we're having dinner. Put away your drawing, we're having dinner.
Away from you, Dad.
We're doing okay. Tell Mommy we're doing okay, because we are, right? We miss you, though.
Wendy knew going in that this was something we would do, and as long as I didn't show the kids' faces, she was in support of it. I'm very proud of that film because I think it addresses an issue that we haven't seen before, which is what I'm talking about. What it's like to be both trans and a widow. To be a mom, who my kids call dad. It's important to note, as I've mentioned, I'm practicing Catholic, but I'm also a very proud member of Congregation Beth Israel, where I've been for 12 years. And just like last year, they named me the chairwoman of the Adult Learning Committee. So now I'm in charge of educating adult Jews. Go figure. Life is weird, huh? That's diversity. I'm also a YouTuber. I hold down half a dozen jobs now to try and make up for the full-time job I gave up to be with my kids. But unlike the journalists that you hear about in the news, again, my job is not to just tell you what happens, but I try to tell a community news that will help them get stronger. It's what we call an advocacy journalist. So I'm reporting from the LGBT perspective, and I'm not hiding it. I'm proud to declare it. I believe I report fairly, but fairness requires that I do not ignore the fact that my community's civil rights are more threatened than ever before. What's happening right now in Washington, and I'm not going to talk against anyone who believes that our president is on the right path, because that's your American right, but I do think that it's going to surely determine the right of people like me to be treated equally as Americans. The fight is more than just which bathroom I get to use. There are some facts I want to share with you, and they're numbers and they're hard, but I hope you can understand that transgender Americans, unlike everybody else here in this room, face unprecedented poverty. They endure employment discrimination and get fired just for being who they are. They're denied housing. They're beaten. They're murdered at a disproportionate rate just for being who we are. 23 transgender people were killed in 2016 just for being trans. We attempt suicide at a rate far beyond everyone else. Most average Americans, there's a rate of about 2%, which is still awful. 2% of all the people in America. Well, transgender Americans attempt suicide at the rate of 41%. If they don't attempt it, they're thinking about it. I tried twice. I tried twice because my wife, in the throes of depression over losing her husband, told me that she'd be better off if I were dead. And I couldn't handle that. I couldn't deal with the fact that this woman I loved felt that awful about me, and I hurt her that much. And I didn't want to go on living. And I thought, no, that's what she says. But it turns out I was really bad at committing suicide, which is good. But I got some help. I became one of those 41%. And fortunately, I had people who loved me and supported me. And I also learned who I am and what my value is, what my place here on earth isn't determined by someone else, even someone I love. It has to come from inside, it has to come from within. It has to be that you, yourself, value you. That's what I learned through that experience. One of the newspaper reports said I got a pink slip to go with my pink slip. So I just decided to stop reading all those reports. You know, just as it once was rare to find Jewish people in the newsroom, very few of them these days have trans people in their newsrooms. I would hazard to guess maybe there's a few dozen transgender journalists in America. If those making the decisions about who to hire, or who to cast in entertainment, had more first-hand experience of people like me, I don't think it'd be such a rarity. I will admit, most of my friends have one trans friend. That they know of.